Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the penultimate round of the PASR Pro SIMRIG Super Touring 2024 Sim Series as we take to Croft for round 7 of 8. It's myself, Zach Sweeney, and Chris Dawes to talk you through all of the racing action here this evening. Of course, Tom O'Farrell, as per usual, behind the scenes to broadcast and follow all of the fantastic action that's going to be out on track. Mick Sutton, of course, the man behind it all as our series organiser, as well as our safety car driver, should we need him over the duration of this evening. Of course, we've battled our way around quite a pretty strenuous calendar over the last few months, and now we only have 2 more rounds. Donington Park all the way back at the 3rd of September, Silverstone, Spa, Brands Indy, Imola, Castle Combe a couple of weeks ago, and there we can see our 2 final rounds that we take to for this season. Of course, we'll end it in the new year at Alton Park with a 33-lap race, but today, of course, we continue our sprint format with 2 18-lap races around Croft. And Chris, what can we expect from this evening? Of course, a tight championship, a tight track, and hopefully a lot of fun to go with it as well.
Yeah, good evening, Zach, and good evening, everybody else. It's looked rather close when I've been having sneaky peeks at the practice times, and I think we can expect to see this one crazy close. A very, very challenging flat circuit where I think they're going to be brave enough to make some moves.
Yeah, hopefully so. Should be nice and tight. There you can see, of course, the prizes. First place gets themselves a Pro SIMRIG PSR 1 with their choice of wheel bracket. Pretty snazzy prize, to be honest. Same too for P2 with the Pro SIMRIG PSR 3, similar to the PSR 1, just without the snazzy mounting bracket on top. Third place gets themselves a monitor stand, which again goes a long way. Of course, a raffle gets themselves the same prize as second place, as well as each of our driver of the rounds getting themselves a nice high quality pair of 3M UK sim gloves as well. And speaking of those championship prizes and those championship positions, it is pretty close in the standings. Nathan Williams, of course, understandably, his dominant run has continued throughout the last couple of rounds. He's 34 points clear of Albert Henriksen Bell. Not mathematically possible for him to wrap it up this evening, so it will be going down to Alton Park, but he's going to want to do himself as many favours as possible going into that final 33-lap shootout. Nicky Taylor, of course, Clio Cup GB champion of 2024 there in third, just 11 points behind AHB for the fight for second. Joel Ask from Jordan Taylor, the top 5. Then comes Luke Sintler and Will Crudson. Carl Felvis, our Season 2 JSCC champion, is 8th ahead of Thomas Potter and Hayden Gray, the top 10. Brad Smith from Peter Cornelius, Catherine Potter from Kieran Tugby, Mark Stokes, the top 15. Milner from Dios, Alfie Dean, Harley Connolly, Jake Wardle, Josh Salvadori, Riley Pogan, Max Russell, Allison, the 2 at the bottom there with no point scores to their name. Of course, Nathan Williams has been pretty strong this season, it goes without saying, Chris. But he's not mathematically able to do it this evening, which definitely sort of spells some hopeful chances for our runner-up at the moment of Albert Henriksen Bell. However, looking at said practice times, it's usual fashion for Williams at the top.
Well, it is, but look at that, only 0.005 is the margin, and in fact the last practice that was on just before this qualifying session, I noticed that Nicky Taylor was the one that was on top, so I think we're going to see some very interesting racing between these two. I think the big hope for both of them, though, is that they don't get involved in anyone else's shenanigans in the early part of this race, because we saw that a couple of races ago that just kind of put them apart at, was it Imola, wasn't it, the 2 rounds ago? And it just lost us the battle we were expecting between Williams and Taylor.
Yeah, unfortunately so. Nicky Taylor and, to be fair, Nathan Williams alike, both of them have had their fair share of misfortune. I think a couple of weeks ago with some issues with back markers. Obviously, Nicky Taylor forgetting to click to the grid. Actually, no, to be fair, it wasn't his fault. He was trying to get rid of the tyre smoke, rejoin the session, and couldn't get back to the grid. Nonetheless, that was a whole thing. You missed a very interesting round at Castle Combe, Chris.
Well, we'd expect so. My home circuit, I'd expect nothing different.
No, when Alex sort of said, "Oh no, Chris isn't here, can you do it?" I was like, "Yeah, but I feel bad for Chris because he can't do his home track, the one track that I thought he'd have wanted to do." Nonetheless, we're on board with Nicky Taylor, and he's now making his way around, and you can see the tyre smoke and why it might pose a problem. Of course, he's now turned that shader off, thankfully. Quite a fast part, sort of first half of the lap, which definitely separates those that are slightly less courageous than others, to put it bluntly. But with 5 1,000ths between Nicky Taylor and Nathan Williams, you're going to want to be as committed as possible. And these touring cars aren't the easiest in the world to drive, so it's a tough lap to hook up.
It is. I mean, you look how quickly we're getting through these sections. Then we're going to start throwing the anchors out the back for some tight and tricky parts as we go through the complex at the moment before we get the very tight hairpin, and you need to get the noise pedal down as much as possible. Oh, someone's just gone straight on there. But I mean, look at even Nicky Taylor getting things crossed up somewhat to try and get it round the hairpin and complete yet another lap. He did go purple middle sector, but he wasn't able to hook up all three. And I think that's going to be the story of the tape, to be honest with you, is that it's going to be tricky to get all three sectors hooked up perfectly. So it's going to be intriguing. I love this circuit. I've only commentated at it once in the real world, and that's largely because it's so blooming far away from Wiltshire. Otherwise, I'd do it more often because it's absolutely a wicked circuit.
No excuses. I commentated at Anglesey. I live in Norwich, so there's you can't be using the too far away excuse, Chris.
It's because you get to Sheffield, you think you're nearly there, and you're nowhere near. So it is a nightmare. But no, it's the same with Anglesey. As I love commentating up there, but I'm afraid I try to pick a little bit closer if I can. But
yeah,
they're stunning circuits, though, aren't they? Both of them.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Funnily enough, I've never commentated at Snetterton, considering it's literally just half an hour up the road from me. It would be great if I could, because it means that no hotels, no nothing like that. Saves money on fuel. It would be fantastic. But alas, not quite yet. Hopefully 2025. Nonetheless, of course, we've got this qualifying session to focus in on. What's interesting to me is the fact that Henriksen Bell is so far off. I mean, nearly a second. Don't get me wrong, we do see a couple of sort of skill gaps start to form in this championship. We've seen sort of gaps of 2.5 seconds, 3 seconds in qualifying before. But surely you'd expect the man P2 currently in the championship would be doing slightly better at this stage of qualifying, especially considering this is arguably one of the most important rounds of the entire season. If he wants to salvage any chance in the championship, he does go a little bit quicker, more onto the pace, but still half a second off the new pole time Nicky Taylor's just set.
Yeah, I mean, I've got to be honest to say, I'm now trying to remember the rest of the rounds. Please forgive me. That's why I sound like a dodgy sweet dealer or something at the moment, is that I'm not feeling great. But from memory, he was not always the best in qualifying, but come race time, he really is able to move himself up through this order and pull some pretty sharp moves as well. So I'm not too disturbed with him there. Plus, you mentioned it earlier that Nicky Taylor and Nathan Williams, and you see that Nicky Taylor has gone top now. These two have kind of largely been the class of the field all season, haven't they, really, to be fair?
Yeah, they've been smashing it. They've been setting sort of benchmarks and stuff. And what I was so astonished about was to see Nathan Williams in the Junior Saloon Car Championship. Obviously, I haven't sort of indulged too much in the previous editions. I'm now on commentary for it. So I was like, oh, Nathan Williams, he does the Super Touring Championship. Yeah, the JSCC, you've got to be at oldest 16. He's a very young lad, is Nathan Williams.
I didn't know that.
No, yeah, he's very young, and it makes me feel incredibly old. Same too as Alex as well. He's the only person in sim racing that makes me feel old.
You cannot start talking about feeling old. I turn 48 tomorrow, so don't give me that grief, all right?
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. Is that usually I'm them, but no, they're now doing it to me, and it just makes me feel like I've been around forever. But nonetheless, it's fine. It just goes to speak to his immense amount of talent in Nathan Williams, and hopefully he does get a chance to progress into the real world at some point to showcase that talent, because yeah, the gap to Nicky Taylor, who by the way is fairly quick on the sim and in real life, just 23,000 separating them. But looking a little bit further down as well, the fight for the third row between Joel Ask and Luke Sintler, separated by just 17 thousandths of a second. So, and that's the good thing about this championship. It's not just Nicky Taylor and Nathan Williams close to the front. We've got battles pretty much unanimously through the entire field. Someone somewhere has got someone to fight with.
And that's exactly what we want. And it does tend to be the case. And that's one of those things that I do love about commentating on sim racing, is that Tom O'Farrell, the legend in the background there, he's able to keep us abreast of all the action through the length and breadth of this grid. And we're always suddenly picking up some fabulous fights further back. I mean, I think Imola, we had this 4-car fight that just raged the entire race, and it was just epic to watch that. And it wasn't necessarily for the lead, but you were glued to it.
Racing is racing at the end of the day. I mean, Don't get me wrong. Would it be maybe better, I suppose. Well, again, it's a subjective thing. Would it be quote-unquote better if it was at the front? Maybe, because there's more at stake. But if you've got hard, fair race, and I don't care if it's P1 or P17, as long as it looks cool, it makes no difference to me. So hopefully we do see a little bit more of that as well. Catherine Potter back out on track and definitely looking a little bit more pacey than she did a couple of weeks ago at Castle Combe. She's definitely much more in and amongst the pack in terms of raw pace, and hopefully she'll be able to make some good headway heading into our 2 18-lap races that we've got for this evening. Will Cruton as well there in the inside the top 10, just 2/10 clear of Catherine Potter. Of course, a real world Junior Saloon Car Championship driver, and won his drive actually earlier this year in 2024. So doing exactly what Nathan Williams is going to be trying to do in a couple of weeks' time at Pembrey. I say a couple of weeks, couple of months' time at Pembrey. But nonetheless, we're over halfway through this qualifying session, and this is really where you start to refine the laps. And when the gap is only 23 thousandths of a second, you said earlier it's all about trying to nail all 3 sectors, which is a very hard thing to do. But now is the time to do it if you want to cement yourself a pole position.
Yeah, I mean, they've had long enough now, haven't they, to sort of like feel their way around it. I think that the settings is that we're around 4 p.m, good weather, as you can see. So there's nothing untoward about this. I don't think it's going to be too hot, too cold. We've got no inclement weather. We've not got nighttime that we've enjoyed a few times. Actually, at Castle Combe, you guys covering that one, it was into sort of dusk, wasn't it, for that one?
Yep.
Which I would love to be able to commentate on Combe into the dusk. We don't tend to get that because we're wrapped up in plenty of time before that happens in the real world. So I'd love that. I think we did it once, and we had a flaming GT that was spitting flames out of the exhaust, lighting the circuit up, which was pretty cool. And we've not done it since. So this looks a lot more straightforward, so to speak. But you know, as we go hurtling down towards Clairvaux, very, very quick right-hander that we've seen some big incidents in the real world round there, through Hawthorne and then back on the power again till we get to the tight right left of the chicane. Well, I say tight, you are able to really cut that one nicely because he took it absolutely flat out, so that's interesting to see. Tower Bend, the right-hander at the end of this long drag now, and you need to get this right because it's a very long, fast drag before we start slowing down for sunny in and sunny out. So I stick to what I said earlier, and you've just repeated, Zach, is that it really is difficult for them to hook up all 3 sectors absolutely bob on.
Yeah, because Croft, interestingly, has got quite a bit of everything, actually. It's got, obviously, as Mark Stokes, as you said, it's a long time to be waiting to be slamming back onto the anchors, and you've got a long time to think about your braking reference. Unfortunately for Mark Stokes, he slightly messed it up there, but you know, we've got a bit of change of direction, we've got some flat out sections, and then obviously that tight and twisty complex right at the back end of the circuit. Each of their own sectors, even though it's a fairly short circuit, lends itself to different driving styles, different abilities, and opens the door, hopefully, for some intrigue as well. Joel Ass showing how Sunny In is done. I don't know if you've ever driven this pack on Assetto Corsa, Chris,
No.
but I always find them to be very, very difficult to hook up. When you do, and it is a fine art, obviously they feel magical. But as soon as you just ever so slightly get it wrong, you brake a little bit too late, you mistime the downshifts to an extent that sort of leaves the car clutching in and then having to then skip and rev match as you get back on the power. It's a very fine art to do. They're very tricky. And one small mistake can leave you sort of losing 2-3 tenths of a second. Front-wheel drive cars, I think, just generally are harder to drive than their rear-wheel drive counterparts. And I don't think that's too controversial in saying that. They typically find themselves to be quite a niche art to drive quickly.
Yeah, I mean, it's a proper old school track, isn't it? I mean, it really is in every way. I mean, it's not that many years ago that the commentary box, for example, here used to be a double-decker bus. So, you know, that you can't get much more old school than that.
Good going. I mean, I respect it. I'd love to commentate from a...
I would have. I missed it. I would have loved to have caught that.
If only. What's the coolest commentary box I've had? I haven't. Actually, no. At Lid, a karting circuit in Kent. Do you know, like at corporate karting centres, they've got like the suit and helmet changing room? Yeah, that was our commentary box for the weekend. That is about as interesting as I get, in all honesty. I've had a commentary box that was in the middle of a tiny temper concert as well, if that counts. I don't know if that's just a cool commentary box or just poor scheduling, but either or, it's fine. 3 minutes left to go in this qualifying session, by the way, and still just half a tenth of a second. I think Nicky Taylor did ever so slightly improve on his provisional pole time, currently sat at a 1:23.898 compared to the 23.909 of Nathan Williams. Just looking at the sector times, and it seems that Nicky Taylor is just ever so slightly quicker through all three. And that obviously does help to be ever so slightly quicker through all three, because it leads you to be quicker at the end of the lap. But just, he's got it under wraps. But the interesting thing is we're not going into, you don't score points for qualifying, or as many as you would for the races. It's a very different thing to lead and control a race, especially when you've got Nathan Williams lining up alongside you.
Yeah, I mean, he did obviously stretch his legs at the front a few moments ago, but we're talking by tiny amounts, 0.054 instead of 0.026, I think it was the margin before he did that. So it's crazy, crazy tight. You know, Nicky's going to be hoping that he can make this count. He obviously missed the Brands Hatch round because he was on holiday, which he was gutted about, because of course that was just before he then went to Brands Hatch, because I commentated on him winning the championship at Brands Hatch, and he missed the chance to go and practice on it in this championship, really, which has put him a bit further back. But look at that, he's suddenly stretched that margin to 0.212 or 123.656. He's absolutely blitzing it at the moment. He's found something a little bit special in himself and the setup on the car.
Yeah, exactly. Of course, this is an open setup championship, so they do get the chance to tinker and stuff in between rounds, which definitely helps if you want to refine it more to your driving style, especially in these tricky front-wheel drive cars, like I was saying earlier on. But yeah, a quarter of a second to Nathan Williams is fantastic as he gets onto the back. I believe that is of Catherine Potter just in front of him. So that's going to be costing him a little bit of lap time, ever so slightly quicker through the first sector, still slightly slower than Nicky Taylor. But there we go. Yeah, exactly. Goes straight through. Waves on by. Nicky Taylor still has a chance to improve on this lap as well, by the way, but slightly slower through the middle sector. It's going to take a fantastic complex to improve on this lap. They are going to get one more should they want it, and Nathan Williams is going to need to do that. He got caught up by traffic on that previous lap by Nicky Taylor straight into the pit lane. Not sure if that's by the rules, but nonetheless, we'll ignore it. I didn't see it.
It's not F1, it's fine.
No, what pit lane entry? I didn't see no pit lane entry. Nathan Williams, though, needs to nail this lap if he wants pole position.
He's still going to be compromised, isn't he? Because he's not got much of a gap until he gets to Potter, and he needs to hope that he's going to encounter the right spot. But interestingly, I suppose he's not catching that quickly at the moment, is he? He's a little bit up on his own time, but he's not managing to eat into Nicky Taylor's time at the moment. That's the time has now run to zero, so this is his last chance to do it.
Exactly, this will be the final lap, of course. In Assetto Corsa, you are allowed to take the checkered flag and then complete your session, other than sort of Race Room or iRacing, where as soon as that timer ticks 0, session's done, mate. Does not care how good of a lap you're on. Assetto Corsa does let you do it. Catherine Potter very extravagantly moves out the way.
That was helpful. That was exit stage left.
Exactly. I'm going to cut some grass so you can go on through. Second sector split comes up very shortly for Nathan Williams, and it's a very abysmal lap for his standards. So at best, it's going to be P2, and I think by the end of the session, it will be a front row start. Still a lot he can do with that, though, especially considering this is just a case of doing himself as many favours to win the championship in Alton Park. He's not in any major dramas in terms of the championship. He's still got a 34-point lead. So he's got a lot to lose, which means that he's probably just going to be trying to consolidate as many points as he can today.
It's what we call a champion's drive, isn't it?
Exactly, and a champion's drive that Nathan Williams would like to consolidate as soon as possible. And speaking of Nathan Williams, he has just jumped into the commentary box with us to have a chat ahead of race number 1. Not quite enough for pole position today, Nathan. What's the struggles? Where is that extra 2 tenths coming from Nicky?
I think I made a few mistakes. I really struggled in turn 1. I just couldn't get the balance of the car. So I feel it's just trying to hopefully be better in the race, but it's just balance of the car and getting used to it.
Is that going to be a setup issue? Is that something that you can sort of amend ahead of race one, or are you sort of just stuck with it now? You got to deal with it and limit the damage.
Well, my race setup feels okay. It's just I put the soft tyres on and the car was all over the place. So hopefully should be better in the first race.
And what's the game plan? Is it to just get a good start, go and win?
Hopefully, yeah, overtake Nicky at the start and then just hopefully drive off. That'd be the plan.
Awesome stuff. Well, best of luck ahead of race one and of course race two. Hopefully we'll have a chat with you in about 25 minutes time.
Thanks.
And next up, of course, Nicky Taylor joining us in the commentary box off the back of pole position. I believe your third of this season. Spa and Imola were the last two places you took pole position. You've now done it here at Croft by a decent margin as well. It was close for the majority of the session, but you pulled it out the bag right at the end.
Yeah, it's nice to actually have a margin in quali for once, because when I've beaten Nathan previously at Spa and at Imola, it's not been by that much, but this is kind of like his margin he normally sets for the rest of the field, so it's quite nice to take that one. But yeah, every lap I done in quali, to be fair, was pretty decent. It's just into, I think it's called Tower, the fourth or third corner. Every single lap I'd end up screwing it, and then it would literally be 2 tenths off. And then the one lap I got it right, it then eventually was a 6. But yeah, Nathan hopes he can do me on the start. I don't think it's going to happen though.
Oh, are you going to start from the pit lane again and get 3 seconds off the start? Is that your plan?
You see, if there wasn't a penalty, I would, but I can't do that now.
No, that was very quickly outlawed. What is the plan then? How are you going to get a better start than Nathan? Do you just get good?
Yeah, I've got my starts pretty much nailed this week. I think it might help with my first gear being a bit lower than what it has been at Castle Combe. So yeah, it should be a better start this week rather than me bogging or starting in Narnia. So yeah, it should be interesting.
Hopefully going to be a fantastic race. You're not just going to shoot off in the distance and make the race for the front boring. You're actually going to have a fight with Nathan.
I mean, I'd love to shoot off in the distance because Nathan seems to do it every week, and it's really annoying now. But if he wants to have a battle, if it's clean and fair, which it should be with Nathan, then I'm all for it. But yeah, if I can also basically screw off into the distance like he does every week, I wouldn't be too displeased either.
Awesome stuff. Well, thank you for coming and have a chat with us. Congrats on pole, and best of luck for the rest of the evening. And of course, we'll hopefully see you after race one.
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome stuff. Nicky Taylor, our pole position sitter ahead of race one. We've got just under 5 minutes until we go green for race number 1 here at Croft. 2 very optimistic sounding drivers. Nathan, of course, expecting to get the jump off the start. Nicky saying, absolutely not, mate. That's not happening. But there's only 1 gold trophy at the end of this. So who's going to take it?
Oh, goodness me, that's the big call. We've got 2 races, of course, today, haven't we? The 2 sprint races. So yeah, romantically one apiece, but I've got a feeling Nicky Taylor is gunning for this one, and I think he's determined to get away off this start. But I don't know. Those 2 guys on the second row, they're going to be trying to get involved. And Joel Lask and Luke Sintler on the third row. They are going to get involved as quick as possible.
Yeah, indeed, as we always do, a very cinematic grid walk down the field. Of course, there you can see Nicky Taylor on the left, Nathan Williams on the right. That's the front row. From there, you've got Albert Henriksen Bell and Jordan Taylor at 3rd and 4th. Behind that, Joel Lask and Luke Sintler will share row number 3, and some very gorgeous looking Mandos. Behind that, of course, you've got the likes of Gray and Peter Cornelius. That's row number 4. Behind that is then Will Crudson, very absent looking. There we go. There's Thomas Potter joining us in 8th. He'll be there for the race. He's gone back again. A very confused looking cameraman as well, it must be said. Behind that, though, of course, you've got the 22 machine. That is Peter Cornelius. Behind that, Will Crudson, Catherine Potter, then just in behind that, ahead of Tugby and Stokes to round off our 12-car grid ahead of race number 1. 18 laps, of course, should translate to be around about 22-ish minutes of racing, and very hard at that. Of course, as a qualifying circuit, we said it's quite fun, quite tough to hook up. Where are the moves going to be getting done, though? Because that's the all-important thing when it comes to a race.
I guess the typical bits are where you have the braking zone. So down in this is where it's interesting, is that we could find it interesting down to that first corner there, where it just tightens a bit at the end of the straight. Sorry, sunny in, sunny out could be challenging. And the hairpin is not much of a run to it, but you could get a few cheeky dare lunges that could be attempted. It looks like we got at least 2 missing from the grid as well.
Yeah, I believe that's Thomas Potter in the pit lane, as well as just gonna have a look at the good old car number 8, which will be it will be. So meant to start from 5th, currently sat in the pit lane. They've got 2 minutes. In fact, actually, no. I think if they're in the pit lane, that means they are going to be taken to a pit lane start. They are unable to get themselves back on the grid, to my knowledge. Hopefully, we will see them take to the grid because, well, we wouldn't want another pit lane start fiasco. Although it has been outlawed now that if you start from the pit lane, you do have to wait until the last car is gone before you can go, as to avoid a repeat of Nicky Taylor running off 3 seconds up the road at Castle Combe. However, he did slow down eventually. He didn't accept that 3 seconds. He did give up the lead to Nathan Williams on lap 1. But based on the pace of Nathan Williams, Nicky was probably better off actually just running off and letting him catch up. Anyway, we've got a minute and a half until we go racing. We are going to have 2 absentees from the start lights. Nicky Taylor on the inside. Do you think that's a beneficial place to be starting into turn 1?
Not really. I don't think so. It just kind of funnels in a little bit. I mean, it's not tight, but it is a slightly challenging one. And so I don't know. My gut says round the outside, 3 Buffalo girls and all that. It'd be better. Ask your parents.
Yeah, no, I was going to say no idea. I know the M&M around the outside, but that's about it. Yeah, no. We'll move on.
Showing me age there, mate.
Yeah, no, a little bit. It's fine. We'll move on because it's fine. 2 weeks ago when I was with Alex, yeah, it was not quite to the same extent, but I was still feeling it a little bit. We've got 36 seconds then until we go racing. Of course, hello and welcome to anyone that's been tuning in on the Perfect Acceleration Sim Racing YouTube channel. Of course, the usual business. Make sure to like, subscribe, turn the bell on for notifications to stay up to date with all things sim racing. Of course, we've got the PASR Pro SIMRIG Super Touring Sim Series, and of course as well the Junior Saloon Car Championship, as well as the chance to go into the scholarship for those that are going to be winning the championship. So a lot to stay in tune for, but in the short term, as you can see, we've got our 6 red lights at the top of the screen. We've got Nicky Taylor, Nathan Williams, Albert Henriksen Bell, the top 3 in the championship, the top 3 as we take to the start. 18 laps ahead of us here at Croft for round number 7, and it's a good launch from the front row, even more so actually from just in behind. Jordan Taylor trying to get involved, tucks in behind his Graves Motorsport teammate of Nicky Taylor as they emerge in towards turn number 1, side by side as Nathan Williams tries to go onto the attack, swoops his way to the outside. Bit of contact between himself and Nicky Taylor, has to take to the off-road and through the bollards. Nicky Taylor very aggressively able to hang on towards the chicane for the first time, and Jordan Taylor trying to get involved. There's contact as our championship leader goes off.
Wow, he's just kept that under control. You could say he straight-lined him. He had no choice because Jordan Taylor, it just funneled, didn't it? There was no real chance. I have to say that the pit lane starters might have been reminded about the rules, but they still came out a little bit sharpish and further up the field. But look at that. Jordan Taylor gets up to 2nd place and Nathan Williams in 3rd position. But he's not really doing that sort of gentle at the moment, is he? He's coming up already, up the inside. Oh, and there's contact. He's just caught. And they're both of them have gone pirouetting round as well. That is not what they wanted.
Absolutely not. Nathan Williams unable to hang on to it. He's stuck there. He's not moving. I think going to be a very, very frustrated man. Of course, it was Jordan Taylor, I believe, he came into contact with. He was able to sort of just plant the throttle and torque steer his way out of it. Of course, on the grass, you're not getting it slowed down, but he was able to, at the very least, limit the damage, to my knowledge. Nicky Taylor, though, understandably, now going to command this race by 1.5 seconds. There is Thomas Potter, Teapot, as we love to call him, a very bright prospect as Peter Cornelius. I've heard of Apexes. I think that's a bit excessive, to be honest.
Yeah, he's just whispering sweet nothings to the Apex there, isn't he?
Yeah, when we said hug the Apex like your favourite grandma, he think he's taking it a bit to the extreme. But nonetheless, about Teapot, he's made his way up to 3rd place, albeit I don't know how legitimately, based off the pit lane start, because he very much did join and feed into the fast lane what was it?
Further up
third
than
or
his
fourth? Yeah,
position. Yeah.
definitely a lot further up than P13 where he should have been. So I think a hefty big old slap on the wrist is going to be going the way of Thomas Potter, but you cannot drive with that at the forefront. You've just got to do the best job you can, and at the moment he's being rather annoying to Hayden Gray there in fourth and denying him at the moment the on-track podium place.
Just to catch up, we're being notified that the reason Peter Cornelius was there having a little kiss and a cuddle with the apex barriers was because there was contact between him and I believe it was Mark Stokes. The two of them just got a bit up close and personal as they got into the hairpin. I said it was going to be a gnarly stage, and Stokes just got a bit out of shape there as well. I think that was between Sunny in and Sunny out, but he's got it wrestled back under control. Look at this, we've got Jordan Taylor trying desperately to move up through the order, but Joel Last, he was another pit lane starter, and he's up to 5th place already as well. In fact, make that one more place because he's going to get past Gray, although Gray's trying to stay there. No, he's not going to hold on to it, and in fact he could lose 2 places just on the start-finish straight.
Yeah, he could indeed, of course. Getting to the apex, very sideways there from the number 8 of Joel Last. Jordan Taylor looks to go to the inside. There's contact there. That gap was always going to close. And as quickly as Hayden Gray lost 2, he gains 2 straight back as they go into the chicane. Jordan Taylor there.
I think he did that deliberately. He gave that position back then. I've got to take my hat off to him there. He knows that he just tapped his corner and he deliberately slowed up to let Last back again.
Yeah, definitely a good show of sportsmanship from Jordan Taylor. It was a gap that was always going to close. He recognised that, penalises himself, and goes on about his race because he knows, I think at the end of the day, he's a bit quicker than those in front of him. He's going to be able to slowly work his way back into contention. But we're already 3 laps into this race. We've got, of course, just 15 and a half left to go as they make their way into Sunny in, and then, of course, Sunny out around 2/3 of the way around the lap. Kieran Topey, the only driver on the soft compound tyre, going to be looking to make the most of that softer rubber grip, albeit a hefty load of understeer going through Sunny out, just to, for good measure. He's got Nathan Williams on his now inside. Nathan Williams, of course, was stuck stationary for quite some time. Nice to see he's back in the race and trying to make some good progress forwards, as well as gets very close to Kieran Topey, but in the end I think is going to work his way inside the top 10. Not exactly what you want is a big old send from the 420 up the inside of him. Nathan Williams, on a day where he needs to maximise points to make Alton Park as easy as possible, a lap 1 collision, not the way you want to go about it.
It isn't. I mean, the only godsend, I guess, is that he can't be sat there with the red mist because he knows that he was the one that just tapped the rear corner of Jordan Taylor and they both went round. So at least that means that he can pick his way through this field without that devil on his shoulder, which quite often we see makes things a lot worse, doesn't it? Whereas at least now he can shake it off. He made a little mistake in the early stages. He's got this 18-lap race to be able to work his way through. And he knows, other than one driver, he was quicker than everyone else. So just keep the patience and work his way through.
Yeah, exactly. It's so easy to sort of, as you say, drive with that red mist or sort of drive with that filter of anger and desperation sometimes as well. It's easy to fall into that trap as Jordan Taylor finds a very opportunistic move on the inside of Sunny out, on the inside of Joel Lask, and finds his way through into 5th. In fact, actually, no, the job's not quite done just yet. It goes around the outside of the number 8 into the complex, has the inside line, and through he goes. He's going to have to go slightly defensive into the hairpin to prevent a similar late lunge to what we saw earlier on from Topey, but Jordan Taylor is through and nicely done into 5th place. Similar to Nathan Williams, definitely quicker than the drivers in front of him, just making the most of that pace and trying to churn his way through as the race progresses. But yeah, you've got to just sort of say, okay, cool, this is what's happened. Now what can I do about it? Always have a positive light on it, always have a positive lens as to how you look at things, because otherwise you're just going to find yourself overdriving the car and subsequently making more mistakes and then putting yourself in a worse position.
Absolutely, and potentially coming back, overly aggressive moves or defenses or something like that because you're not in the right mindset. Whereas if you can just get yourself back onto that, light touch on the steering wheel, relax about everything, pick your way through, remember the racing lines, that you're quick. I don't think he'll have got any damage, would he? Because it was such a delicate pirouette by the pair of them that I don't think he's going to be driving with any handicap in terms of handling, in my opinion.
Yes, I mean, it was a light tap to the rear, I think he might have just gotten away with it. The only thing that could be concerned for me would be flat spots if they've held the brake. Obviously, their tyres will be obviously a bit more wear down. Jordan Taylor looks on the inside of Hayden Gray, finds his way through to 4th. The 16 is going to fight that to the inside of the complex, but to no avail, I don't think, in the end, as it will be Jordan Taylor that has the inside for the hairpin, potentially going to get followed through by Joel Lask, who's going to push him through on the inside. Very karting-esque move there, but it's worked. Nicely done. Very opportunistic from Joel Lask to pick his way through to 5th.
Yeah, we haven't really had any updates, have we, in terms of what we're expecting from the tyres for this round. We normally get Tom letting us know, although he stitches us up with all sorts of falsity. Sorry, Tom, but you do stitch us up, mate. Oh, and there's contact there. Joel Lasker's just caught the rear of Jordan Taylor there as they came round out of the... I think that was coming out of Clairvaux, wasn't it? Heading towards Hawthorne and not giving it back, but they're now going side by... Yes, he has there. He's just delayed that giving back, hasn't he, Joel Lask? Knowing that he just did an unfair tap, but he needed to keep Hayden Gray behind him.
Yeah, exactly. The last thing you want is to be sportsmanship and then lose out more because of it. Although it is the right thing to do, you don't want to be giving up too much more than you need to. About a third of the way through this race now, and, well, still a lot of action to contend with. That is a huge sideways moment there from Joel Lask, who makes another tap to the inside of Jordan Taylor, who goes wide, just able to keep it under wraps. These cars are always so on the limit that once the front starts to slip, it's very difficult to get it back, but just goes to show how hard these drivers are going to be fighting. Luke Sintler as well in the other Mando, just in behind, trying to apply some pressure. Hayden Gray getting all over the rear end of Joel Lask. Rubbing his racing or something like that, I suppose. Hayden Gray straight up the inside of the hairpin, though. Saw that gap coming a mile away. Able to get himself onto the curb. Able to accelerate his way towards the exit of the corner. And Joel Lask, well, cutting some grass, falls down to 6th.
Really impressed by Hayden Gray so far. I think he likes this circuit, doesn't he, in that 16 car there. He's really prepared to shove his nose where it isn't necessarily wanted. Don't forget that blue and white car at the back of this gaggle, Luke Sintler, is that that was one of the other ones that sort of almost pirouetted in sort of sympathy to that Jordan Taylor Nathan Williams incident on the opening lap, and so he's had to work his way through, and he's now bolted himself onto this trio, and he's turned it into a, well, I was going to say, we've got Hayden Gray under pressure there from Lask again, but look how Sintler in that blue and white car, number 72, is completely involved, and he's about to put a challenge on Gray as well. But Jordan Taylor's now escaped, hasn't he? Sorry, mate.
No, that's all right. He's been able to get away, and that's going to be good news. Hayden Gray, though, going to be feeling maybe a little bit grey after a slide like that, able to hang on to it, but in doing so, losing the place to said blue and white car of Luke Sintler. And it's just been very, very good racecraft, really, from the majority of them, sort of picking the gaps exactly where they need to, finding the right positions on track and filling the space in the right way. Nathan Williams, though, by the way, because of all this battling and a mixture of that with his pace, right onto the back of this train, I wouldn't put him past potentially finishing inside the top 5, considering we've still got over half of this race left to go. If he's able to keep this trajectory, just looking at his lap times, his quickest to 25.5, nearly half a second quicker than those in front of him. He's rapid, and a top 5, I'd say, is probably the minimum expectation for Nathan Williams in this race.
Yeah, just seeing there. Oh, and he's now just scythed up. He just saw that tiny little lock-up and mistake from Gray, and Williams was not waiting for a second invite. Up he goes into 7th place. His next target is going to be Sintler, and we were just getting the update from Tom to say that Gray was very quick in practice as well. So that kind of confirms my belief that he particularly likes this circuit. And you get that, don't you? In the real world and the sim world, is that there are circuits that you just love and you bond with.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes for a multitude of different reasons, whether it's your home circuit, it's the circuit you've done most laps at. Sometimes, though, there's just that one circuit that for some bizarre reason you just gel at a lot better. On the flip side of that, there's those circuits that for some unbeknownst reason, the corners are, fairly similar, the driving style might be fairly similar. You're just atrocious at it. For me, that's Sebring. I can never get on with Sebring at all. I despise the circuit because of it. But then sort of a circuit like Spa I've always been fairly competent at in terms of race pace. And it's a similar story for, I think, most drivers. You just find that one circuit that gels really well with you. And that's the circuit you expect to do quite well at. It seems to be the case for a number of our drivers here today at Croft. And it's not a circuit I've done a tremendous amount of mileage around. But the mileage I have done, I did thoroughly enjoy it. Flows really nicely. I like the challenge. It just is a UK club circuit, and the UK does it best. I've got to be honest. In terms of our circuits, we hit the nail on the head each and every single time. Nathan Williams looks to the inside of the chicane, scything his way through, and, well, already knocking on the door for a top 6 as things stand. A top 5, not a million miles away either.
Well, what's happened at the front? Because it's now showing Henriksen Bell at the top of the timing, if that's correct. No, it was just a little glitch, that's fine. We occasionally get that, it just had me worried. But I was about to say that what was impressive, and what has always impressed me with Nathan Williams, he has now made the move past Luke Sintler, but do you notice that he was almost alongside, and then we got to the funnel of the chicane, and he just backed out of it. He didn't keep his nose in there to make the contact and unsettle both of them. He just dropped away so that they both got through cleanly because, and I'm going to use your phrase you used earlier, is that he knows that he's got the speed. He doesn't need to get it all done in one go.
He doesn't. He's got the patience, and you can afford to wait. You've still got half of the race left to go in order to complete it. Nathan Williams knows that, and fair enough, right? Could he have argued that, yeah, I was alongside, I was, front wheel to rear wheel, I should have been given space? Maybe there's an argument for that, but why
You're not
make the
going to
argument?
get space.
No,
yeah,
exactly.
Through a chicane, there is no space, is there? So I think
Exactly.
it was very sensible. It's brilliant to watch.
Exactly, and what I mean by that is why make the argument after the crash has happened?
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
not have a crash. Simple as that, right? Back out, put your ego aside. Granted, you might have had the right of way, but I'd rather just not have a crash full stop. Nathan Williams is now going to facilitate that move on Joel Lask, while Jordan Taylor is trying to find his way through on Thomas Potter. Tries to get the up and under, is going to find his way through, gets the squeeze though. Teapot being very aggressive in not allowing the 19 through, very much getting his elbows out in that Mando.
He is. I mean, the bad news is reading between the lines is I think there's going to be a penalty coming Teapot's way because the official rule is that you can't go until the final car has gone past the pit exit. Well, we know that wasn't happened, and apparently the penalty is the gap between what it should have been and what it was is the rawest sense. So something's going away. Interestingly, by the way, Luke Sintler sadly has got a 5 second as well for track cutting. Now, is that going to be the last one we see before the end? I'm not sure. I think we might see a few more as Nathan Williams has a sneaky snifter up the inside there, but just sort of holds his line there, and he's now tucked up behind Teapot as they come down to complete yet another lap. 11 laps in the book so far.
Yeah, able to then start the next tour of Croft, and definitely chipping these laps through quite thick and fast. Teapot, though, while he has got a penalty, I think is doing the right thing. He knows he's got a penalty. He's just driving to try and mitigate the effect of it, because there's no point going, oh no, I've messed up, I'm going to slow down and let everyone through, because chances are you're still going to get a penalty anyway. Just keep driving. Drive as quickly as you can and see what the result is at the end of it. Just treat it as any other race. Focus on what's in front of you and find your way through. Nathan Williams, as they exit their way at the right hand at the bottom end of the circuit, is able to accelerate his way around the outside of Thomas Potter and through now into 4th place. Question is, has he got the pace to chase after Jordan Taylor? Of course, the two of them making contact a little bit earlier on in the race. Could we see Nathan Williams, after being sat stationary at the back of the field for a good 5-6 seconds, find his way back onto the podium? Still got plenty of time left to go in this race. In terms of best lap times, they're pretty matched. Nathan Williams, with that consistency, I wouldn't be surprised to see this gap chip away and the two of them battle for P3.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting when these two get close together. As commentators, it's our job to stoke the fire and interest, and you certainly wonder whether there's going to be intrigue as these two get close together again. But that's kind of the easier passes for Nathan Williams now. This gets interesting. Jordan Taylor, regular front runner. Henriksen and Nicky Taylor have disappeared off into the distance at the moment. Can he get himself onto the podium? And I think that's going to be his goal, isn't it? Just one more place gets him onto that podium.
And what it does is it gains him some very, very good points in the championship. Not relative to Nicky Taylor or Albert Henriksen Bell. Both of those, as things stand, will still be finishing in front of him. But it limits the damage, and going into Alton Park, he will still have a very healthy margin if things was to stay as they are, to again make his life as easy as possible, because 133 lap race, a lot can go wrong, pit stops, setup, anything like that. You want to have a nice cushy margin that you know you're not going to be falling out of should anything go awry. And of course with drop scores and things as well, he wants to make sure he's in the best position possible to clinch the title. But that gap, as we said a lap ago, was about 1.8, now down to 1.3, so that gap is coming down, and that fight for the podium, I think, is not a matter of if, it's a matter of when we see Nathan Williams and Jordan Taylor go for round 2.
Yeah, I was just clocking. I know I was mentioning earlier about Teapot probably getting a penalty for coming out of the pits too soon. I think Joel Last did as well. Not quite as bad, but I think it was still too early. So we may well have a few changes at the end, but I think the reality is that we end up having to just... They've got to fight what they see in front of them now, because that penalty would be at the end, wouldn't it? So we get to just enjoy this race from scratch.
Yeah, exactly. From us, again, makes no difference. And again, like I was saying for Thomas Potter and Joel Lask, don't drive assuming you've got a penalty. Just drive the race in the situation that you've been put in, right? Don't be worrying about any external factors, anything like that. Just drive, because funnily enough, the quicker you drive, penalty or not, the better you're going to finish. And that's exactly what they need to be doing. Thomas Potter, of course, fair enough, was able to benefit and be in a podium position for quite some time, as he goes, I think, ever so slightly wide, and that is going to promote Joel Lask ahead of him, at least for now. Luke Sintler as well in that blue and white machine closing in. So now a teapot sandwich with Mando Brett. Well, it's just a quadruple Mando, actually. There's 1, 2, 3, and 4 of them. Not quite able to make the sandwich bun because they're all in the same chassis, but it's fine. Lap 13 of 18, though. Luke Sintler versus Teapot and Joel Lask, all fighting for what is the final place inside the top 5. But yeah, from an external view looking in, this is Luke Sintler with a pretty easy top 5 finish. With as well Hayden Gray. To be fair, I say easy top 5 finish. Hayden Gray could also be getting involved, and maybe ahead of Luke Sintler, who absolutely launches the move to the inside of that final hairpin. Of course, you can see that red proximity arrow, and still drawing alongside is Thomas Potter. Bit of contact as Luke Sintler looks to go to the outside of turn number 1. Not quite going to fabricate. He might be able to get the up and under, but as we've seen, a very big pinch point on the inside of turn 2, one that you don't really want to be taking any risks with. And again into the chicane, that final point that you were saying at the apex, if Luke was going to go for that, Thomas was realistically always going to turn into him, and pretty much rightly so.
It's a lot tighter a circuit than you realise, isn't it, until you sort of see the cars trying to go side by side. Oh, and just has to sort of pull himself up there as they got into Tower Bend, and just about got away with that. A great job, but it's now left Sintler vulnerable to Gray behind him, who we've seen looking very strong here, but just a good job by Sintler. He's managed to pull away from Gray this time, but he needs to just calmly move back onto the back of Potter and see whether he can launch another challenge. You asked the question at the beginning about where are these challenges going to come from. It's a lot tighter to do it than you think, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. Sometimes it's not the case of have you got the space, it's will you still have it by the time you get to the exit. Sometimes you see the gap open up, you go for it, you fill it like Luke Sintler did just there, but very easily you can get pinched halfway around the corner, anything like that. And it does become very difficult to 100% facilitate the move. Side by side as they approach turn number 1 once more, but Thomas Potter able to just ever so slightly edge himself ahead, weaving around a little bit, deciding to go for a defensive line by the end. Luke Sintler then catapults himself to the outside. Thomas Potter very nearly pinched against the tyre barrier to the inside of turn 2, but again able to hang on to it. Have to say, a nice move there from Luke Sintler to get 6th place, as there you found out when you run out of space, thankfully, through the crucial pinch points, you've got enough space to bail out, and that's exactly what Thomas Potter did after the attack from Hayden Gray to the inside of the chicane.
Yeah, it's got to be tempting, hasn't it? Because although the circuit, as I say, is a lot tighter than you give it credit for, there's a lot of grass runoff, isn't there? It's just got to make it tempting to give it a go. Look at these two now. These are the two that had that 7 pirouette at the beginning. They're now back together again. How much of a lunge are we going to see from Nathan Williams?
Well, again, it goes back to it. He's quicker than Jordan Taylor. Does he need to be desperate? I mean, we've got 3 laps left to go. So maybe there is an extent of, okay, yeah, fair enough, time is ticking, get on with it, mate. But equally, you've done this much progress. Why throw it away with a silly move, get yourself a penalty, especially when Nathan Williams has got a hell of a lot more to lose than Jordan Taylor does. Still continue to go side by side. Joel Last versus Luke Sintler, by the way. That's that blue and white Mando trying to go onto the outside, eventually become a very expensive lawnmower, but Joel Last was able to hang on to it in the end, very aggressively so, we might add. But into turn of one, Thomas Potter forcing the gap open. That was incredibly aggressive from the young driver, who eventually does find himself back into 6th place. He... fair enough, I suppose. It was aggressive, bit of contact, but got the job done.
Side to side, wasn't it? That was an interesting move. I mean, it's so cool, isn't it? We got the 4 Mandos all together, and it shows that they are fairly evenly matched here. Joel Lask leading the honours for that, but Gray's up the inside of Sintler, the number 16 car, although he hasn't managed to get the noise pedal down enough to make that stick, and so Sintler in the blue and white number 72 is able to power his way out of that corner and past him.
Yeah, indeed so. And again, momentum is a big thing around Croft, especially in these front-wheel drive cars. You don't want to find yourself washing out of corners because it just completely ruins that momentum. So if you're able to keep the minimum speed up and get those exits, then you're going to be doing yourself a heck of favours around this circuit. Penultimate lap of the race now just started. These guys still technically on lap 16, but going to be going on to the second to last lap. Luke Sintler on the back of Thomas Potter, thinking about a lunge into the hairpin, half offensive, half defensive, trying to keep Hayden Gray at bay. We've got 4 cars, 4 Mandos, nose to tail, 2 laps left to go for a top 5 place. We've been absolutely spoiled to a pretty decent race, as well as Jordan Taylor, Nathan Williams, still a quarter of a second apart. That's going to be a fight that's going to be raging on till the bitter end as well, I'm sure.
As is this one. Look at this, absolutely epic. And Williams has got himself alongside, but the problem for him is it's a right-hander. Is the outside line going to work? Oh, and he looked like he was going to make it. But Tower Bend is quite challenging. He's now going to have the inside for the left-hand kink as they get to the Jim Clark S's. But they can both power through. But Nathan Williams is there. That's where they came to blows on the first lap, I think. And Jordan Taylor's just managed to power that one through. What some brilliant racing between the pair of them.
Yeah, they've both had to have bucket loads of overtakes so far this race. They've had to ascend their way through from the sort of the war zone that is the lower positions of this grid after their contact earlier on. It was something that was completely self-fabricated but made for some great racing. And now they've got to do it once again, 1v1 against each other, cranking on so much lock through the complex. There was Nathan Williams, and it got to a point where it just seemed like he was doing more harm than good to the front tyres. But one more lap left to go. Nicky Taylor and Albert Henriksen Bell start their final tour of Croft for race number 1, and they're going to be battling their way through, of course, Jordan Taylor and Nathan Williams, Nicky Taylor and Henriksen Bell. Home free, there you can see Nicky Taylor just enjoying himself. Is an interesting lunge there from the 420. Not the first time we've seen that. Nicky Taylor, very wise to move.
Yeah, you said enjoying himself through the traffic. I'm not sure he'll have enjoyed that one, would he, I reckon?
Absolutely not.
Change of underwear for that one.
Yes. Nicky Taylor, he knows how to deal with lap traffic. He'd rather not do it, but he knows how to do it. And thankfully, no harm, no foul in what looked as though it was an assassination attempt. I don't think that was quite what the 420 was going for, but nonetheless, side by side, of course, that's Jordan Taylor versus Nathan Williams. Is sideways. Jordan Taylor trying to keep the foot in as Nathan Williams takes to the outside as we approach Sunny in and Sunny out. Later on the brakes, ever so slightly, is Nathan Williams to facilitate third place. We've got a third of the lap left to go for these guys. Nicky Taylor as well is now going to be coming across the line from pole to flag. It's Nicky Taylor that's victorious here at Croft for race number 1, round 7 of the PASR Pro SIMRIG Super Touring 2024 Sim Series. Albert Henriksen Bell closes the gap in the championship with a fantastic, quiet, but calm and collected P2 as well. Who's going to be the one to get third place? Nathan Williams side by side with Jordan Taylor, who just about is going to nip him to the line. A drag race as they exit the hairpin, but nicely done there from Jordan Taylor in what was a heated fight from start to finish between the pair of them. Did he get it in the end? Oh, they were virtually matched across the line. Lightning McQueen style, as I like to put it, but Jordan Taylor takes third.
Incredible stuff. And look at these Mandos coming to the line, the 4 that have been battling out. Joel Last and Teapot at the top of that, if they're able to keep that from their pit lane start. Luke Sintler and Gray just bringing up the rear of that Quartet Crutzen. in ninth place, just ahead of Charlotte Potter in 10th. And of course, we saw that Peter Cornelius car sort of in the barriers at the hairpin after the contact with Stokes, but at least he finishes ahead of Stokes.
Yeah, exactly. It's been a tough race for a lot of people. Of course, there you can see Nicky Taylor, our race 1 winner, and from pole position. Pretty decent race after Jordan Taylor and Nathan Williams sort of put themselves on the back foot. Then comes Albert Henriksen Bell and Jordan Taylor, our top 3. We'll grab words with as many of them as we can. Nathan Williams in 4th from Joel Lask and Thomas Potter in 6th. Provisionally, Luke Sintler from Hayden Gray, Will Cruzen and Catherine Potter, our top 10, with Cornelius Stokes and Tugby to round off our 13-car field. We'll start then, I suppose, in ascending order. In fact, no, we won't. Nathan Williams has disappeared. So we'll start from 3rd place and with Jordan Taylor. Talk us through your start. Pretty good one from the 2nd row. Lap 1 then happened, but apart from that, a pretty decent race, and was able to nab 3rd right at the end of the final corner as well.
Yeah, not bad. It's been a while since I've been up here. Jesus. Yeah, I mean, it was just a hectic race. That's what these races are about, really. Just showing your door and bits like that. But yeah, contact to contact. I dropped back a bit, but fought my way back up and had to use my elbows at some points to show people I'm not going to get bullied. But yeah, not a bad race overall.
And of course, how would you sort of rate your pace? Because, you know, in the end, P3 was a good result, but how do you fare your chances, hopefully with a slightly better start to race 2? Do you think you can continue the podium streak?
Hopefully. I mean, I was struggling then because where I'd been battered about, I had read everything, and these cars are horrible to drive with damage. It's like real life. If you lose, so you've got air on the car, you lose your front bumper. There's so much understeer and stuff like that. So it's the same on the sim, and yeah, it was just horrible. So I'm a lot faster when I actually don't have a broken car.
It does help, funnily enough. But yeah, no. Overall, well done. A really strong start and a strong recovery drive from that point, and hopefully with a fully repaired car, you'll be able to make some good advancements forward. Thank you for coming and have a chat with us, and hopefully we'll see you again after the end of race 2 if you're able to stay at the front.
Cheers.
Awesome stuff. Jordan Taylor P3 at the end of it for him after a last lap overtake on the inside of Nathan Williams. We'll work our way up the podium then, and to the man P2 in the championship, P2 in race 1 is Albert Henriksen Bell. Talk us through your race. Pretty quiet one as far as Super Touring races go. You were just chilling, to be honest, for the majority of it.
It felt, if anything, more like a practice session. I was incredibly shocked to see the collision up in front of me, and then was thankful for the fact that I noticed Luke having a moment as well, and just about managed to make my way through it all. And then got to have relatively calm, well, not even relatively, a calm race, just keeping an eye on the timings, watching the battle between Jordan and Nathan through the timings.
Yeah, I suppose you were enjoying the Delta as they were ascending their way through, and then, of course, the last lap stuff. I suppose then, what do you do when the race is boring from your side? Is it just a case of treating it as a practice session, or were you sort of still trying to be quick? I sort of mentally, what changes?
At that point, you know there's a lot less pressure on you, so you don't actually push as much as you probably could be, just because that's just happening in the back of your mind. While also at the same time you're thinking, okay, if the car in front gets a time penalty, I might be in with a shot, so I need to get as close as possible.
So it's sort of juggling between the whole, I could, but I couldn't, but I might, there is a chance. Overall, though, pretty decent. Talk us through the feelings, though, of the championship. Obviously, Williams is a little ways ahead, and the chance for the championship may be a little bit hopeful, but is it something that you're still going to be driving and maximising point scores for, just in case?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, there's at this point, I don't see any reason for me to approach it any less professionally. It's, yeah.
Awesome stuff. Well, best of luck for race 2. Thanks for coming to have a chat with us, and hopefully we'll see you again in 25 minutes' time.
Thank you.
Nicky Taylor. Turns out Nathan did get you off the start, just not for very long.
Yeah, I don't really know what happened, to be fair. I just kind of got a bit of a boggy start. Jordan got a start like lightning and was literally on our bums by T1, and then yeah, I tried to stay as tight as possible. I think we had Thomas coming in from the pit lane, which I don't think me or Nathan expected, so we naturally just drifted over further to the right hand side. And then yeah, I clipped the curb, but I was as far right as I could do. There was a little bit of contact, but don't think there was anything in it. And then yeah, just a pretty boring race.
Yeah, just chilling out in front. Had a near assassination attempt on the final lap with one of the Mandos. Can't quite remember which one it was. Did that keep you on your toes while the race was boring? To have to deal with some of the lap traffic around a pretty technical circuit?
Just a tad. I was saying for most of that race, like from looking at the bottom of my screen, because I've got all the positions and everything on the bottom of my screen, I saw Kieran was on softs, and I went, they're going to be dead by lap 4. So if I get past him, he might not be able to brake. And lo and behold, he wasn't able to brake into tower. So I did. Yeah, very, very scared, to say the least, to be fair. But I saw it coming, luckily, at the last minute, so I jinked left and managed to avoid it. But yeah, I think that's the most exciting bit of my whole race. But yeah, in all honesty, although the tyres, my front left wear was at 0, it just kind of was alright, just taking it nice and steady and chilling with the tyres.
Similar plan then for race 2, have it be as boring as possible?
Maybe a bit more excitement, but not too much. Like maybe if Albert can keep me on my toes for about first lap or two, that'd be great, and then I can check out again. That'd be ideal. But yeah, championship for me anyway is pretty much over. But unless Nathan has another bad round, because if Nathan has another bad race now, he won't really be able to drop it. So it brings me and Albert into contention a bit more. But yeah, whereas for me, because I've missed around completely with brands, if I do badly in this race, it actually benefits me more than what it would hinder me. So at the end of the day, I'm good either way. If I don't win and I get below second, then I gain points. So I'm not too fussed and just kind of can go out and have fun.
Well, best of luck. Hopefully you do end up having fun. Make sure it's interesting for us in the commentary box as well. But yeah, best of luck for race 2, Nicky.
Cheers, thank you.
Awesome stuff. Nicky Taylor, race 1 winner, and of course going to be looking to replicate that success going into race number 2 as well. The grid is set, of course, by their finishing order of race 1. 18 laps back on the clock. We've got about a minute and a half, Chris, before we go racing once more. And do you have any predictions for race 2? Do you think it's going to be a similar story to what we saw in race 1?
Well, if we can get the clean start or the clean, first lap or two, I still think, Nicky Taylor is just looking in the class of his own. He clearly likes this circuit. He's clearly got it set up absolutely bob on. But you look at Henriksen Bell, Jordan Taylor, Nathan Williams, Joel Lask is now on the grid, so I think he can be up there. I second and third is up for grab between at least 4 of them for me.
Yeah, and that's what we love to see when the grid is this competitive. Nathan Williams, though, starting from 4th, alongside Jordan Taylor, hopefully not going to end in a similar fashion to what it did in race 1, but still provide us with some decent excitement. If Jordan's able to replicate the start that he got in race 1, him and Nicky could be P1 and P2 by the end of lap 1.
Yep, I wouldn't put it past them, that's for sure. But I don't think Henriksen Bell's going to be allowing that to happen very easily, though.
I would be entitled to agree. 6 red lights, of course, back on. Nicky Taylor will once again assume pole position, this time alongside Albert Henriksen Bell. Both of them racing for a potential chance in the championship as Nathan Williams starts from 4th. 6 red lights are on for the second time here at Croft. Lights out and we get underway. Once again, a fantastic start from the second row of the grid for Jordan Taylor, who pulls himself alongside Albert Henriksen Bell and potentially going to be trying to draw himself alongside Nicky Taylor as well, who defends as we approach turn number 1. Nathan Williams on the inside of Henriksen Bell, who drops from 2nd now to 4th. Jordan Taylor on the outside of the Clear Cup GB champion as the 2 teammates run side by side towards the chicane. Which one of them is going to back out first as Nicky Taylor has the inside, giving just the bare minimum of space with Jordan Taylor. Nathan Williams now tries to get involved. He's neck and neck as we approach Tower Bend at the bottom end of the circuit. Inside line goes the way of our championship leader. Nicky Taylor defends. Inside line opens up. There's contact between the pair of them as Henriksen Bell tries to get involved. After all of that, Nicky Taylor somehow still leads as Jordan Taylor emerges side by side with Henriksen Bell.
That looked to me as though Nicky Taylor was even just trying to hold up Nathan Williams to allow Jordan to be able to come through. I mean, how respectful were the Taylors then that time round? Oh, Henriksen Bell's just made a mistake in the background. That's uncharacteristic of him. But the fact that it shows you can go side by side through the chicane, that was super impressive.
It very much was. Of course, it was very tight, but they made it work. And in fairness, didn't lose as much time as I thought they would have. A big shame for Henriksen Bell, particularly for the championship, because he's not just fighting for P1. He's also got P2 to worry about. Nicky Taylor was just 11 points behind him coming into this round. I think that might swing in favour of Nicky Taylor by the end of round number 7, heading into Alton Park in a few weeks' time as we head into the new year. Lap 1 in the books, though. It's Taylor from Williams, then comes Jordan Taylor from Joel Lask, and Thomas Potter, who has a legal start to this race and is actually inside the top 5. Hayden Gray from Sintler, then Crewdson, Henriksen Bell, and Mark Stokes completes the top 10 for the first lap of this race. And now we get into the nitty-gritty. Now is the time to start settling in, finding a rhythm and finding your groove in this race. Nathan Williams, though, does not want to let Nicky Taylor get too far in front of him if he wants to keep that fight for the lead alive.
Genuinely pick it up on all, and then we've got Sintner moving up the inside of Gray at Tower Bend. But picking up on Thomas Potter, it's great to see that now a legitimate start and is still legitimately up there in 5th position, and in fact challenging Joel Lask. So it's great to see Teapot having a cracking race round there. Again, another one that you can say likes this circuit, I think.
Yes, definitely. Of course, a young, very aggressive driver is Thomas Potter, but we wouldn't want him any other way. He definitely provides a lot of excitement, and it's nice to see his progress as well through all of these PASR championships and all his real-world endeavours as well. He's recently announced that he's a test driver and doing some collaborations with some really exciting people in the real world. Side by side, Henriksen Bell, the 42, goes through on Will Crewdson and inherits 8th place. So beginning that recovery drive, it seems that in both races, it's the theme that someone will have an off and will have to be fighting their way through. It's just unfortunate for Henriksen Bell that he's pulled the short straw for race 2 and is going to have to be battling his way all the way through the remaining 16 laps of this race. Kieran Tugby, though, on the inside as he fights with Mark Stokes for the final place inside the top 10. He's gone for the right choice of hard compound tyres in race 2, not making the same mistake as race 1, and is reaping the rewards of said decision because he finds his way through to 10th.
It was worth a try, wasn't it? You know, if you're a little bit further back, roll the dice, do something a little bit different. You know, the sign of insanity is keep doing the same thing, expecting something different to happen. So it was worth a go, but it just didn't seem to work. Although we'll never really know whether it went off too dramatically. Henriksen Bell's going to be absolutely gutted with that one, and I didn't spot contact in the background. It was down to this bit, wasn't it? Sunny in, and just snatched a break and went a little bit wide. Well, I might be doing injustice, and there may have been contact, but it's now just got to pick his way back through. Gray, there you can see directly in front, is the next target, but just needs to make sure that he's patient about this. That was the word we've both used in that first race, haven't we? And it is critical around this circuit.
Yeah, it is. You can't be making too many rash judgments because, you know, you've got a lot of time. 18 laps. Yes, it's a sprint, but you still have a decent amount of time to process information, find out where you're quicker, and then make rational decisions because it's not a circuit with a ton of runoff. If you make a mistake, you're going to know about it, like that one straight into the rear end of Hayden Gray there. Albert Henriksen Bell braking a hell of a lot later, showcasing some good sportsmanship as to back off and accept his punishment for that one. Thankfully, not any major sort of fouls in terms of pace or damage or anything like that. Maybe some front end and rear end damage. I say maybe, probably definitely. As Thomas Potter looks to go to the inside of Joel Lask, finds his way through. He's going to be fought, though, as the number 8 tries to keep his foot into the outside. Nicely done. But yeah, the point of patience, you've got to be consistent. You've got to make the right decisions because, like we've seen, if you make the wrong one, you're going to know about it very quickly. So you can see the live championship standings as well. You've got Nathan Williams leading by 32 points ahead of Albert Henriksen Bell. That has come down between race 1 and race 2, but of course you've got drop scores and other things to take into account. Nicky Taylor 8 points back then in the fight for second, so that very much is still alive. Jordan Taylor potentially has a chance of grabbing himself P4 in the championship, being just 1 point back on Joel Lask and still ahead of him in this race as well. Lap 4 then of 18, lap 5 now we begin. So chopping and changes as Mark Stokes. Well, that is a car that is firmly out of this race, I would assume. A smash windscreen and not going anywhere. Be interesting to see what happened to him there, but not the way you want to conclude your second race of the evening.
Yeah, I was rabbiting away, giving some great feedback then, by the way, but forgot I'd muted me mic as I was coughing away, so apologies about that. But one of the ones I was going to say is, that was a great move by Potter to get up into 4th past Joel Lask, who's been brilliant through this championship. But the other one as well, I have to apologise that Henriksen Bell was contact apparently from Joel Lask. So it wasn't completely unassisted, that one. So Henriksen Bell just needs to play it cool, Trig, play it cool, and start working his way back through this field. But he's got those Mandos, 4 Mandos that were fighting brilliantly in race 1, glued to him. Talking of glued, look at this at the front. This is the fight that we were hoping for, wasn't it, between Nicky Taylor and Nathan Williams? And there's about 3/4 of a second between them, which, as you can see there, is nothing.
Yes, not a lot, especially when you're filling each other's mirrors as well. Nicky Taylor makes a slight mistake through the hairpin, able to sort of play it off though, and still get the rotation for a late apex. But good to see that we've got a nice level of competition for the battle for the lead, because at Castle Combe didn't really have it, because Nathan Williams did a Nathan Williams and, you know, checked out into the distance, and Nicky Taylor, because of Nathan Williams's absence after the lap 1 contact, didn't really pose much of a challenge. So nice to see the top 2 separated by just 3/4 of a second. Any small mistakes from Nicky Taylor will be very quickly capitalised on by Nathan Williams, who was there applying the pressure and trying to thwart the 117 in his pursuit for a double race victory here at Croft, ahead, of course, of our season finale at Owen Park in a few weeks' time. Of course, for the championship, it's all vital for each and every single point that we get. Albert Henriksen Bell looks to the inside of Tower Bend, definitely does find his way through on Hayden Gray, who doesn't really put up too much of a challenge. In fact, it's probably going to be more beneficial for him to latch onto the back of the 42 and use him as sort of a battering ram to get onto the back of Luke Sintler, Joel Lask and Thomas Potter.
Yeah, I mean, this is critical for second in the championship, let's not forget, because I think that's going to be slightly different to what we see on the scores there, because it was 8 points between Nicky Taylor and Henriksen Bell, but Henriksen Bell's moved up 1 more place, so that's going to be a 9-point margin between the two. But that is incredibly close when we go into the high-scoring pit stop race at Oulton Park. So whilst Nathan Williams is in the pound seat at the moment, that second and third fight is incredibly tight between those two. And you saw that there is prizes for first, second and third. So it is important. They are going to be fighting for that one. So Henriksen Bell's just got to keep picking his way through and try and create as much of a margin or maintain as much of a margin between himself and the current race leader, Nicky Taylor. He's also going to be hoping that Nathan Williams can catch him and start robbing points off of Nicky Taylor as well.
Yeah, exactly. It throws a lot of intrigue about each and every single race that we take to. Also, what I wanted to mention was the fact that in a few weeks' time at Oulton Park, you get one chance to get that race right. And it's a big consequence if you don't, with the points that are on offer. At the very least, with a sprint format, if you mess up race 1, you've still got race 2 to try and sort of make up for a poor evening and limit the damage. That's not the case at Oulton Park. If you get into a lap 1 crash and DNF, that's it. That's day done. And that could be the difference between winning and losing this championship. That's wide, though, from Joel Lask, and is going to invite Luke Sintler to the inside of Sunny out as they emerge themselves towards the complex. Joel Lask has the inside line, bit of contact door-to-door between himself and the fellow Mando of the 72. Luke Sintler then gets his attack thwarted, albeit very aggressively from Joel Lask in towards the hairpin. Does the space open up? He dummies to the inside, finds the space, at least shows his nose over the curb. There's not a space on the inside, but he was persistent to find one.
Wow, you could sense that Sintler was very strong on his brake pedal then to try not to absolutely tip Lask round there. Apologies, I was misinterpreting the points that were on there, by the way. That was the point standings after race 1. It wasn't fully live. And so basically is that 8 points was the margin there between Nicky Taylor and Albert Henriksen Bell. And if you look at the moment, Henriksen Bell is 6 places behind Nicky Taylor, so suddenly that margin is down to 2 points between second and third. I mean, we don't even need to try to build up the hype for this championship going into Oulton Park, really, do we?
No, we don't. I mean, we can try, but it
writes itself, doesn't it?
It does, and that is exactly what we want. As commentators, I'm sure there have been plenty of times where we're trying to hype up things that potentially are very difficult to hype up. Other times, it's just a case of, well, what more can I say? There's nothing that I can say that's going to add value to what is already an invaluable championship. And that's exactly what we've been treated to the Pro SIMRIG Super Touring 2024 Sim Series. So if you have liked what you've been seeing, definitely keep an eye out for any future championships going into 2025. I'm sure there's a lot of excitement building behind the scenes here at PASR. That's very wide, though, from Kieran Tupey. Going to invite Peter Cornelius and maybe Catherine Potter into the fight. Of course, Cornelius and Potter both had contact right at the beginning of the race. Nice to see that as a collective, they're fighting their way back through, albeit with a very smashed rear windscreen for Peter Cornelius, which is by no means ideal, but he still seems to be driving pretty competently and, well, still inside the top 10, so not bad going.
I noticed this gaggle here is that Potter's not only up into 4th, the lead of the Mandos, but has pulled away from Lask and Sintner and left them two having a fight. With Henriksen Bell there, you can just see the Dayglow yellow bumper on that car just coming in as we get into Tower Bend, closing in on this battling pair. And that's the problem, isn't it, is that as soon as you're involved in a tussle with another car, you're not going to be doing the quickest lap times.
No, exactly. Just a small, a small battle, bit of contact, bit of damage, anything like that. And very quickly, you hamper a lot of momentum, especially when you decide to go side by side like that, albeit a fantastic opportunistic move from Luke Sintler, in the end muscling Joel Lask off the road. But, well, it's hard racing, I suppose, in the end, and definitely not the most aggressive move that we've seen all evening long. Albert Henriksen Bell, though, he's going to be very glad to be seeing these three fighting so hard, because all he sees, he doesn't see them as Joel Lask, Luke Sintler, and Thomas Potter. He sees them as P6, P5, P4, and the points that come with them.
Yeah, exactly. This has been the biggest circuit where you can see the example of people being suited or preferring certain circuits than any of the other ones that we've seen, where it's been largely sort of status quo. This one, there's a few drivers that have really managed to work their way a lot further up this order, I would say, and Teapot's probably the most impressive in this one, sat there in 4th place for me.
Yeah, he's had a really strong round as, oh my goodness me, Albert Henriksen Bell from a different postcode back decides to launch up the inside of Tower Bend. Of course, Joel Lask saw that coming a mile away, decided to fight it around the outside, somehow has been able to hang on. Remarkable stuff, not just from Joel Lask to not completely slam the door on Henriksen Bell, but equally for Henriksen Bell to actually get the car stopped and make somewhat of a respectable apex. Luke Sintler makes a bit of a fuss of the exit of Sunny Inn, and that's going to hamper his exit and maybe allow these two to close back in. But remarkable racing, it must be said. It's aggressive, it's on the limit, but it's exactly that, it's on the limit. It's not even a step over it. They're just about getting away with these audacious moves, and it's making for some fantastic racing.
I'd be interested to know if all of the drivers feel the same way as what we're saying there, but
easy for us to say. Easy for us to say in a commentary box. It's very different emotions in the cockpit.
Especially if you're on the receiving end, isn't it? Because, of course, you can only see one angle, and as we've always said, is that every driver's got their own point of view, and I think we're seeing quite a few of those. But all it takes is just that one moment of, you see the chance. Look at Henriksen Bell again, he's looking, but we're going into the chicane. It's going to disappear as he's trying to carry the speed through the right-left kink there as we go all the way down towards the right-hander of Tower Bend. But look at Lask trying to cover that inside line. He was now trying to take the racing line. Henriksen Bell didn't do the Dan Dare lunge this time, but Lask was just distracted enough. You saw that snatch of the brakes has not meant a very quick exit there as we now power towards the Jim Clark S's. These are flat out, so not really a place to make a move, but now we're going through Barcroft and into Sunny Inn. Here we go through Barcroft, done, now Sunny Inn. Tidy from both of them there, really, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. They're nailing all of the apexes, really flowing this car around well. And that's the thing with this VRC pack. Of course, you've got the Mando, the Gajora, the Vector as sort of the base content. Then, of course, you've got the other ones. I was about to use their real name, but I don't know their fake one. So there's another expansion pack you can get. But the base content that we've got, the Vector, the Mando, and the Gajora, all three of them have their own quirks. Kind of all relatively are able to reach the same pace. But the bottom line is they're all very difficult to drive. And like I said in qualifying, it's an art with the trail braking, keeping the weight of the car on the front, making sure you're balancing it, trying to get the rearward rotation, because that's the hardest thing when it comes to a front-wheel drive car. Slightly rearward brake bias, trying to trail brake. They've all done it so well as Luke Sintler looks to the inside of Thomas Potter, tries to get the pinch through the chicane, thankfully able to back out of it before disaster struck. But despite the challenges of this car, these drivers are barely ever putting a foot wrong, even when the pressure is through the roof.
This is interesting. One that I can only assume did put a slight foot wrong is Teapot, because that margin was quite big and they were fighting behind. And this, for me, shows the example that it only takes that one tiny little mistake. You know, you were interviewing Henriksen Bell earlier and saying that it was like a test session, and I loved the way you took the questioning of going like, what was the mindset whilst you were in that sort of boring, distracting situation? And you see how easy it is to just miss your braking point, go in too deep into a corner, and now we've got the challenge from Sintler. Sintler's overcooked it and heading towards the circuit furniture and has to wrestle that back towards the tarmac. But there is the example. It's only one little mistake changes everything.
Yeah, it's a catalyst, right? It's one small mistake that sparks a chain reaction of consequence beyond that. And Luke Sintler, unfortunately, nearly found himself facing the wrong way. And a one-way ticket to not being in this race anymore is the bluntest way to put it. Albert Henriksen Bell, though, is making some quick headway later on the brakes into turn 1, but was always going to have to settle in behind Teapot as they work their way through turn 1, then 2, now towards the chicane. Lap 13 of 18. We've got 6 laps left to go in race number 2 of round 7, and we have not been disappointed with the standard of driving. I think the key word, though, sometimes is complacency, right? You get comfortable being in front, then make the mistake, then it's, oh no, the pressure is still there. They were only 2 seconds behind. I've still got a very busy time on my hands. And Joel Lask was like, well, cheers, mate, I'm through. You make a mistake, I'm taking 4th.
And just pure concentration can be the other one, can't it?
All the C's. All the C's.
Exactly.
Yeah, concentration as well. I mean, it's a beautiful circuit, it's Croft. You can very easily get distracted. But even down to lights flashing outside your window or people talking outside your bedroom door because, you know, Thomas Potter, he most definitely... Yeah, exactly. He most definitely does not live alone, right? He could have outside distractions, a dog, anything like that, that just ever so slightly put you off. You miss your marker, and it's one small mistake that has a big consequence. Similar to that one, a small bit wide, slightly off the racing line, missing the apex. Had to bail out as to not hit the tyre barrier on the outside of the complex. He's immediately back up the inside of Luke Sintler, though, to limit the damage and take 6th place. Henriksen Bell goes through to 5th. Now with 2 seconds to Joel Lask, that's got to be his focus. He cannot allow Teapot to get back through, because otherwise he'll probably run out of time to get anything better in this race than 5th.
Either that was just an unsettling period for Teapot, or those tyres are cream crackered. I don't know, because look, he's struggling. And I saw that when a couple of the others that were able to get past. This just looks easier than I would expect, and he's doing a really strong job to try and defend, knocking Luke Sintler off into the grass there. But I think his tyres might be dead.
Potentially so. I mean, you're going off track. That's going to wear them. You may be locking up when you're fighting side by side with people. That's going to wear them down quite a lot as well. And again, it's a long race. And in front-wheel drive cars, those front wheels take a absolute pounding, right? With having to drive the car and steer it and take the brunt of the brakes, because even if you do go for a rearward biased car, the fronts still take the majority of the braking effort, and that all goes through the front rubber getting pushed into the tarmac. So it does take a lot out, and you have to have some level of tyre conservation even in sprint racing. Nicky Taylor versus Nathan Williams, by the way. This fight hasn't gone anywhere. It's just been a little bit of a stalemate between the pair of them for the last 15 laps. Now Nathan Williams is within half a second. We've only got 3.5 laps left to go. We still could see a fight for the lead, especially with such little time left, because Nathan Williams maybe starts to get a little desperate, seeing his chances for the win fade away with each ticking lap.
Yeah, it's what we're down to now. Is that 4 laps to go? We're on lap 15, aren't we? So yeah, it's 3.5 laps to go in effect. I love the fact these lead two are absolutely glued together. I'm trying to work out whether there's a management here from Nicky Taylor, because we saw that he was quicker. Big snatch of the brakes there into Sunny In, though, and Nathan Williams is able to close in. This could get interesting at the tail end, you know.
I would expect it to. Just looking at the lap times, you said it's management. He did a 24.69 Nicky Taylor as his best lap this race. It's now tailed off to a 25.9. That's not too far off what we saw from race 1. Quite a quick lap time, in all fairness. Obviously, as the tyres fall off, naturally so too will his pace, the fatigue, those sorts of things. But he's still driving pretty quickly, maybe even more so because of that pressure from Nathan Williams. He's not in no man's land like he was in race 1. He actually does kind of have to push to keep the number 5 at bay. Still got this three-way fight though. We've got Thomas Potter versus Sintler versus Hayden Gray, who momentarily disconnected, but I think is back and all good in the session. Now with just 3 laps left to go as Nicky Taylor crosses the line. Time is ticking. Henriksen Bell is on the back of Joel Lask as well for 4th place. The recovery drives have been mighty this evening. Luke Sintler on the inside of the hairpin, by the way. We did sort of suspect moves were going to happen there. Didn't imagine them in such a high volume, though. People are being incredibly brave on the brakes.
Yeah, I mean, there's only probably a couple of hard braking areas, isn't there? So I guess they're going to have to be, to say the least. I'm loving this battle, and Teapot keeping Sintler behind at the moment. Gray ready to pick up the pieces after a great fight back onto the back of these. It means that Joel Lask is happy. That's the lead Mando, or whatever we're supposed to say, that is further afield. And here comes Gray up the inside of Sintler at Tower Bend. Not quite able to make it work because he couldn't get on the power quick enough as they exited. Darned if you do, darned if you don't.
Yeah, it's a very tough one. As Jack Warrell would say, it's 6 of one and half a dozen of another. You're trying to make the right decision, but it seems that each time you make it, it's a different circumstance that always has a different answer, as that is very aggressive from Hayden Gray, who gets it all sorts of wrong into Sonny.
Well,
he was very aggressive. There was a bit of contact. Would it have that big of a knock-on effect, though? I mean, the braking zone was a lot longer.
Yeah, I would say so. But it's what I mean. You're right. He was aggressive in the first place. Joel Lask has got past Henriksen Bell there, interestingly, up into 4th place, which is impressive because that Mando, or actually, that's Henriksen Bell got past and then they repassed. So Joel Lask is defending well there. But yeah, I mean, challenge for the lead there, and suddenly Nicky Taylor has got to wrestle that car back under control. Nathan Williams went for it. That's not just a champion's drive. That is, he wants that win, and that's all he cares about. Oh my goodness me, that was going to end in tears, and somehow they got away with it.
The 2 drivers that this season have set the benchmark in terms of pace, pushing each other to new heights. Both of them have had titanic 2024 seasons, both real and virtual. They've got just over a lap left of racing. It's been boiling down to this. The tension now has built to a point that cannot be contained, and Nathan Williams is sparking the attack on Nicky Taylor, who's been leading every single lap this evening for round number 7 here at Croft. Nathan Williams, the gap opens up going into the hairpin. He is going to give it a look. There's contact between the pair of them. Nicky Taylor gets pushed wide. 1 more lap left to go here at Croft, and Nicky Taylor's pursuit of a double victory, well, looks slightly more doubtful now. Nathan Williams has arrived and is applying the pressure.
Oh yeah, I mean, this is interesting. They are both gloves off, aren't they? They're prepared to go for it. Do you know what I'm still expecting is that despite the fact that this is a really gnarly fight between the 2 of them, I can actually genuinely pitch the 2 of them giggling as they're doing this, because you heard Nicky Taylor at the end of race 1 going, yeah, I'd kind of actually like a bit more excitement. He's got it, hasn't he?
Yeah, you always love it when there's actually a good race. I mean, I always find myself smiling, even if I'm not running off and winning. It feels strange, but you don't enjoy those wins as much. You want to feel like you've earned it, and while being dominant is probably the best way of earning it, this way you've got to fight. You're under pressure, the heart rate is through the roof, the adrenaline is spiking. There's no better way to win a race as a driver than being pushed all the way to the checkered flag, through Sonny in and Sonny out for the final time. We've got just the complex left to run, as we've completed 17.5 laps of this race. Unless Nathan Williams has got something stuffed up his sleeve to throw at Nicky Taylor, I think it is going to go the way of the Graves Motorsport. 1-1-7 into the hairpin for the final time. Nicky Taylor is uncontested. Nathan Williams tried his absolute hardest, but in the end it's not enough. Nicky Taylor accelerates his way towards the line. It was pole position, it was race 1 victory. He's done the double here at Croft for round number 7 of the Pro SIMRIG Super Touring 2024 Sim Series. Nathan Williams a close second place, and Jordan Taylor, Nicky Taylor's teammate, comes home to complete the podium for the second race in a row. Fantastic battle all the way through for him. There's grass being kicked up in this fight for fourth as Henriksen Bell tries to find his way through on Joel Lask. Don't quite think he's going to be able to do it by the time they reach the checkered flag, so the number 8 just hanging on ahead of the 42.
Applause to Tugby for staying out of the way there as well, by the way, of that fight coming through. Oh, it's going to be close, though. Oh, goodness me. I think Henriksen Bell just got it in the end there.
He did, actually, indeed. It was very, very close across the line. But yeah, Henriksen Bell, crucially for the championship, was able to do that to hang on and limit the damage. Not necessarily to Nathan Williams, more so to Nicky Taylor in the fight for second. But 18 laps in the books. And 18 very thrilling laps, it must be said as well. Looking forward to these post-race interviews, to say the least, because, yeah, what a cracking battle. Once again, we do a race, we're not disappointed.
No, there's always entertainment. You might get one that'll escape, but there's always thorough entertainment in this championship, without question.
Exactly that. We're just seeing the first of our interviewees make their way into the commentary box, and I can see Jordan Taylor, so I'll start with him. P3.
Yeah,
All right job.
Not too bad at all, considering I've had a 7th and a 6th at Cube, so it's a good bounce back. Ready for the final round.
Yeah, exactly. And talk us through then the feelings ahead of Alton Park. It's a long race. It's the end of the championship. What preparations are you going to be doing ahead of it? Obviously, you've got Christmas and New Year's first, and I'm sure a lot of things slightly stronger than Fruit Shoot maybe to enjoy over the holiday period. But in that week then, from New Year's to Alton Park, how are you then going to best prepare to end the season strongly?
Well, I'll definitely try to do some more practice, because I only started really doing practice for this round today, about an hour and a half before quali. So yeah, definitely try to put some more laps in, because you've got Nathan who's pumping in 250 laps most rounds, and you can see it massively. He'll find them little things here and there on the track, like bumps and where to put the throttle down, and it does help. So definitely try to get some more laps in, as I won't have work, so fingers crossed.
Definitely ideal. Also can confirm, by the way, you're our driver of the round for this round,
yeah.
based off the 2 podium finishes. We thought you deserved it, because you've done all right, I suppose, Jordan. So you get yourself some nice gloves, and yeah, congratulations on what was a really successful evening.
Yeah, thank you for voting me. Thanks, Tom, who doesn't get thanked enough for his amazing job. I'm sure it shows on the stream, so thank you again, Tom, and Chris, who's here tonight, I think.
Yes, indeed so. Well, thank you very much, Jordan. Take care, and we'll speak to you in the new year.
Speak to you in the new year. Merry Christmas all.
Awesome stuff. Jordan Taylor, P3, and our driver of the round. Our championship leader is up next then, Nathan Williams. Not quite enough for race victory in race 2, but after lap 1 of race 1, I'm sure you'll take it.
Yeah, definitely the first race didn't go to plan. I'm sorry for Jordan for the contact, but then obviously race 2 going from 4th and then being right behind Nicky was definitely not exactly what I wanted, but definitely closer we could have got, so quite happy with that.
Yeah, a really, really good battle all the way as well. The more pressing issue, though, on your mind is the championship. You couldn't quite wrap it up this evening because of drop scores and maths and stuff. But Alton Park, there's a good chance you are able to do it. Does that affect your approach at all?
I think it's maybe trying to avoid what happened in race 1 a bit, because obviously a bad result could lose me the championships. I think it's partly from now, just start putting the practice in. We've got a while to practice, and then on race day, just don't make a mistake. Settle for second if that's the safest option, rather than trying to push for first.
Don't bottle it then, is the name of the game.
Yeah, exactly.
Simple as. And also, of course, very quickly, the Junior Saloon Car Championship, of course, you're competing in that. Did quite well at Brands. It was a very enjoyable race to watch. So you've got 2 championships on your mind. Thankfully, I suppose, they're 2 fairly similar cars to drive in the sense of the touring car versus the Saxo.
I think they're quite similar in the fact the front wheel drive, but the horsepower's a massive difference, because the Saxo is entirely about maintain the minimum speed, where in this car it's not as important. You can sort of slow the car down as much as you want and just straight line the exit, and that's sort of what you want to do. But so they're a bit different, so it's a bit of a change driving between them.
And I'm sure you're very hopeful about winning both championships as well. So congratulations on your results this evening. We'll catch up with you, of course, on Thursday for JSCC, and then see you in the new year to see you potentially crowned as the Pro SIMRIG Super Touring champion.
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome stuff. Nathan Williams, P4 and P2 this evening. And finally, Nicky Taylor. It's almost as if he's a pretty decent driver or something. Pole, race 1 and race 2. Nathan did make it quite difficult though, especially from lap 16 onwards of race 2, but you're able to hang on.
Did he ever? Honestly, that was a nicer race in the terms of I actually got to battle with someone and it wasn't boring, but flip me, was that hard. Honestly, I saw Nathan come in and I was like, I'm doing high 25s here, which is really, really quick considering my tyres are like gone off. So God knows what Nathan was doing at the time, but he was catching me so much. So yeah, that was quite entertaining. And then yeah, I think it was literally just touring car battling at the end of the day. There was a few taps here and there, but none of them were malicious in any way. So yeah, it was good racing, and good to see that we've actually been able to have a battle this year, rather than in all rounds we've seemed to kind of either have a battle or like be miles apart from each other. So it was good to actually finally have a race where it was literally me and him throughout the whole thing, just going tooth and nail at it.
Yeah, it was really, really good to watch as well. I'm sure you were smiling the whole way around. Chris was saying that as intense as it was, you probably had a pretty wide smile on your face to enjoy the battle, especially after the sort of boringness of race 1. I suppose in comparison, which one feels better to have won, race 1 or 2?
Definitely 2, because 2 I had to work for it. Race 1 was good, but then obviously with Nathan and Jordan having their moment in the first stages, it kind of took away from it a bit, because I already, from them two doing that, I pulled out about a second and a half gap instantly. So that was kind of a nice race, but it was not as intense and not as entertaining, for say, as the last one. And yeah, it's really, really good, because it was honestly every single lap, even when Nathan was about a second behind me, I could see into Tower he was so much better on the brakes. So it literally, I knew the minute he'd get within sending distance, he was going to send it at Tower. So I saw it and went, you're not going down the inside of me at Tower. This is my favourite track in the UK. You're not overtaking me round here. So I literally made my car like a bus.
Very nice indeed. Very well done, of course, Nicky. Have a good holidays, and we'll see you in the new year for Oldham Park.
Yeah, thank you all. Thank you, obviously, to Tom, like Jordan said, for putting it all on, and the countless amount of hours he's put in. Obviously, thank you to you two as well for commentating and doing a really, really good job on that. And I'll say what Jordan said as well, with Merry Christmas. It feels weird to say it this early, but Merry Christmas, everyone.
You say early, it's the 10th of December. But yeah, take care, Nicky, and we'll see you soon.
Cheers.
And there we have it. All 3 of our podium sitters done and interviewed. Of course, that concludes our action for the PASR Pro SIMRIG Super Touring Championship in 2024. But there you can see the championship standings ahead of the final round at Oldham Park, pending drop scores. Nathan Williams still leads from Albert Henriksen Bell. The gap to Nicky Taylor in the fight for runners-up is now just 3 points, with Jordan Taylor tipping Joel Lask to 4th. Luke Sintler in 6th from Will Crudson. Thomas Potter making some good headway after a couple of good rounds. Hayden Gray and Peter Cornelius the top 10 in the championship. If you're looking at this, you're loving what you're seeing at PASR, and you're thinking, well, I want a bit more racing action. Well, we're going to keep you entertained. There, of course, you can see the calendar that we've ticked through thus far in 2024 for the Super Touring Sim Series. We'll be back for round 8 in a few weeks' time on the 7th of January to conclude this season. As I was saying, PASR, we don't just do touring. We have also got the fantastic opportunity for one of our young drivers to take to the Junior Saloon Car Scholarship at Pembury in the new year. They're going to be fighting for that honours over our JSCC official E-Series. Season number 3 takes place every Thursday. Our next round coming up at Donington Park. It won't be taking to Cadwell after some slight issues with the mod, but we take to Donington Park with some Citroen Saxos and some up-and-coming talents as well, like those such as Nathan Williams, our championship leader of the Super Touring 2024 Sim Series. He's going to be vying after finishing runners-up to Carl Felvis for Season 2. So he's going to be looking to get some redemption and maybe take himself to the real track in 2025. From us, though, Chris, it's been a pleasure. As always, I know your voice just about was able to hold up. Couple of issues with forgetting to unmute your microphone, but all in all, pretty good round.
You're lucky that I muted the microphone. There was a few big chokes going on. So thank you very much, mate. I appreciate it, Zach. Is that it sort of enabled me to still be here, but not necessarily firing on all cylinders. And that, you saw why I wanted to be here. This thing is just so exciting. I couldn't possibly miss it.
Exactly, and there you can see, of course, Tom O'Farrell behind the scenes pushing all the buttons. We have to give all the thank yous to him for following all the action and making the broadcast look lovely and pretty. Mick Sutton, of course, our series organiser, and we didn't need the safety car, albeit it would have been virtual. My name, of course, has been Zach Sweeney. I've been alongside the fantastic Chris Dawes in the commentary box. You'll have Alex Newman hopefully back on the 7th of January in the new year to kickstart 2025 off as well as possible with the season finale of the Perfect Acceleration Sim Racing Pro SIMRIG Super Touring 2024 Sim Series. I always say it's a tough championship to say. I always nearly mess it up in some way, shape or form. From us here at PASR, it's goodbye for now.
And Zach, pleasure to work with you, mate.
Always, likewise. Yeah, shame.